Is it really normal to feel sick all the time? It's becoming the new normal. And every day there's more and more conditions that are being, people are being diagnosed with, and labels that are being thrown on people that 10, 20 years ago you barely ever heard. And now it seems like every other person you know has got something, some new condition, some new autoimmune thing, some problem. And the problem is, this is what happened to me. I was like 26, 27 years old, and all of a sudden I start getting these weird symptoms. I go to the doctor, and they're telling me, oh, that's just normal aging. That's just wear and tear. And I'm like, what? Hold on, wait. For the first 26 years of my life, everything was good. And then all of a sudden, wham, bam, I turned 27. And all of a sudden, normal aging is wrecking me from head to toe. It's getting worse every day. And it's not like slightly worse. It's like severely debilitating. And eventually I ended up being referred to several specialists, landed with a rheumatologist, and ended up being diagnosed with multiple autoimmune chronic inflammatory conditions. Now, let me give you a little bit of context. I'm also a pharmacist. And I was already a pharmacist when this was happening to me. So I believed the medicine was work. I believed these doctors were going to save me. I believe they have my best interests at heart. And I'm not saying, I'm not throwing shade on these doctors, because they're trained in the same system that I was with modern medicine. But what I will say is a lot of these assumptions that it's just normal aging and wear and tear, and that, don't be concerned with it. We've got a pill for your symptom. Keyword pill for symptom, not pill for root cause, not pill to get rid of the problem, but just to treat the symptom. And it's becoming just a bigger and bigger problem. It seems like almost every day, I have lots of conversations in my pharmacy with people, and they'll be going along. They may be in their 20s, they may be in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and all of a sudden, boom, diagnosis shows up, bad symptoms show up. They can't get it to go away. It goes from what could be an acute thing, if it was treated and the root cause, if the fire was found and put out, that it turns into a chronic, lifelong condition. They've got to be on one medication, and then they've got side effects or whatever it may be, and now they're on 3, and then they're on 6, and it's kind of a slippery slope from there. And so I want to stop and talk about that for a minute, because when I was first told that, I just, took it as it was. I was like, oh, it's normal wear and tear. Like, everybody goes through this. And then I'd go have a conversation with someone well into their 60s, just vibrant and healthy and climbing mountains and shit, and you're like, wait, hold up. I've been debilitated since I was in my 20s. You're over here doing just perfectly fine. And then, especially after that happened to me, I started to have deeper conversations. I'd be like, hey, I got to ask you a question. What are you doing? Like, you doing something different? Like, you're not aging like the rest of us. You look younger, you act younger, your body looks like it's in great condition. You're able to do things that a lot of people can't do. And you're like retirement age. Like, you could be drawing Social Security right now. What are you doing? And a lot of times you'll find out that it boils down to something that they've done in their life. They've cut out bad stuff. It's usually got a dietary or a nutrition tie. It's something. And then you'll get a little bit deeper, and I'll go, okay, so how did you learn about that? Did you just accidentally eat the right thing your whole life? And they're like, no. Back when I was in my 20s or 30s or whatever, or 40s or whatever. It could be different for everybody, but no two people have the same story. But they'll go, no. My health took a slide. I started feeling like crap. I started getting these symptoms. I started going and doing these things. And then, boom, I took drastic measures. I changed up my diet. I changed up some of the things that I was doing that weren't so healthy in my life. And all of a sudden, I felt good again. I had energy. I felt young again. I wanted to go do stuff. I wanted to go climb those mountains, and I made a pact with myself that I only get one body, and I've kind of felt it degrade a little bit, especially kind of felt like I was out of control. And once I regained a sense of control, that changed my whole trajectory. It changed my whole outlook, and now I'm not going to give that up again. And after having multiple of those conversations over the years, countless of those, it was ironic that that's exactly what happened to me. I lost my health. I trusted that the medicine was going to save me. I continued to degrade over the course of a decade plus. I eventually went all the way to the Mayo Clinic. Still couldn't get relief. Was taking all these very high-powered drugs that are very immunosuppressive. That's what they use to treat, some of these chronic inflammatory autoimmune conditions, because honestly, they know the immune system is involved, and that if they can just make it stop working at its full effect, it can't beat you up as much as it, it's relentless. Like, it's not going to stop. It's attacking you. The problem with that approach is that it has downsides as well, because your immune system, what else does it do? It prevents you from getting sick. And if you do get sick, it helps you to say it's an infection or whatever, it helps you to overcome that. Well, those same drugs that are immunosuppressive also suppress that side of your immune system. So not only do you get sick easier, but when you get sick easier, it can turn into a life-threatening, dangerous situation. Not only that, when your immune system is functioning properly, it's very common throughout your entire life for a cancerous cell to show up in your body. Your immune system's really good at flagging those cells and going, this is a bad one, let's kill it, let's get rid of it, let's eliminate it, and it does that. And so a cancerous cell pops up, boop, your immune system does away with it, no more threat. But what about when it's suppressed? What about when it can't identify those cancerous cells? Or even if it can, it can't eliminate them. Well, you're increasing the risk of cancer, and that's exactly what they do. And I was on those drugs for at least 6 or 7 years of that decade plus. We were on that level of drugs. And even then, even though those do give probably the most relief out of all the anti-inflammatory drugs that of the options that they have, they don't last forever. They work pretty good at first, and yeah, you do get relief, and it's much needed, and you're very thankful and grateful to have a little bit of relief from it until you get the flu and it gets terrible, or you get a spider bite and it's a staph infection that just won't go away, or something like that, and then it's not very fun. And then in the back of your mind, that it's risking the risk of cancer has gone up significantly, and so you've got that nagging thing in the back of your head, like, what do I do here? I do this and I'm risking, it's kind of risky business. And so for me, it took, and the ultimate scare for me is that eventually after a decade plus, I was told by multiple doctors that I had significant erosion at some of my cervical spine, way up, basically at C1 and C2, right where my skull connects to my spine. And they actually told me that it was getting so brittle and weak that it could fracture easily, and that if it did, there's a good chance I wouldn't even make it. Because of that, I really got desperate. I started having a lot of conversations with some colleagues of mine, and eventually it was suggested to me that someone had heard about the carnivore diet helping people with these autoimmune chronic inflammatory conditions. And I'm thinking, that is I've heard of that diet. That's the craziest diet I've ever heard of. But I'm going to give it 30 days. I'm going to give it 30 days. I'm just going to give it a try because I'm that desperate. And they're telling me I might not be here anyway. If I take a hit to the head, or if I'm roughhousing, if I'm playing basketball, if I get rear-ended in my car, it could all be over. And so when I've got that news, 30 days on carnivore doesn't sound so scary anymore. Even if I am going to be constipated, or it's going to clog up my arteries, or it's going to give me gout or whatever, compared to death, it was an easy option. And let me tell you right now, that was the most powerful thing I ever did. Within just 10 days, I felt the inflammation going down in a more powerful way than even those big guns, those biologics, like Enbrel and Humira and some of these other ones. I could not believe it. And 6 years later, I'm still doing this diet. I don't even have a rheumatologist. I don't even take a baby aspirin for inflammation. I cannot say enough about this. So if you know anybody who, if that's you, if your story resonates with that because you're experiencing any of those symptoms, or if you know anybody who is, have a conversation with me. Send me a DM, reach out, email me, whatever. Find a way to contact me. I'd love to have a conversation, tell you a little bit more about my story. So please share that with anybody who needs to hear it. And until next time, guys, stay good.